All right, it's time for a K-Contents version of Korea on Demand. And joining us in the studio is Jason Bechervaise. Jason, hello to you.
Hello, SJ. How are you?
Good. Do you know how many members there are in New Jeans?
No.
Well, apparently I was wrong. I thought it was 4. They said 5.
See, yeah, you don't ask me questions about that. Makes me sound out of touch.
I can't keep in touch with all of this.
Yeah, music's not really my forte.
I like listening to them, but then now I know how my parents feel when I was listening to the music of my times, and they were like, that music is terrible, and then they were always talking about how good music was good in their times. Now it's that cycle again. I'm not saying the music is bad. I just can't understand. I can't keep up with the large number of girl groups and boy groups.
Yeah, but
and stuff.
hasn't that always been the case? I remember when I first came to Korea and I was watching that chart show, and I'm one of the broadcasters.
What show?
Like every week on a Saturday or Sunday, they would have these kind of acts perform. Was it a Friday? I can't even remember what day of the week. It was like Top of the Pops, in the UK.
Oh yeah. Well, what was it called? I know.
I have absolutely no idea what it was called, but they'd have all these groups, and I had no idea who they were.
Oh, really? Oh, you were
that was
just
years
never
ago.
into music.
Yeah,
This is always films.
Yeah, movies.
Original
ask me about
soundtracks?
movies. I always tease I'm good.
Soundtracks?
I'm good. But when it comes to music or K-pop groups, sorry, I'm not your man. I don't even know anything about British music, so there you go.
The Beatles?
Well, I know the Beatles. I know the big bands. I know, Queen and Blair and all the rest of it.
He's on the same page as me.
But beyond that, I know Coldplay. There you go.
Coldplay is British?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So there you go, SJ. I am the man of... I'm a good source of knowledge.
Yeah, he's got the edge on me even in music. We're gonna talk movies. What have you been watching these days? What was it? The movie that we just talked about in our entertainment segment, Wonderland?
Wonderland. I saw that today.
You saw that just today. Wow.
I did. I went to see it this morning, and I was a bit disappointed.
Really?
I like the director very much. I like Kim Dae-young. He made films such as Memento Mori. He also made Family Ties, which I think is a companion piece.
I didn't know he was married to Tang Wei, but...
Yep. And Late Autumn, which also stars Tang Wei. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into the story because our wonderful guest, she outlined it already. So, but essentially...
But this is it's packed with stars.
Oh yeah, it's got Bae Suzy, it's
Park Bo-gum, Chung Yoo-mi.
It's got Choi Shik, it's also got Gong Yoo as a...
Was it just a kind of a cameo, right?
It's more than a cameo.
Oh, is it?
He's in it quite a bit, actually. And yeah, it deals with AI, so artificial intelligence. But it kind of doesn't really deal with it in a very kind of... I guess some people are arguing that it does deal with it in a meaningful way. It's connecting with some audiences. But I think it also underlines how it's difficult to make sci-fi work in Korea because... yeah, I mean, the reaction to the film hasn't been all that great. And very few Korean sci-fis have struck a chord with viewers here. And I get the sense that this is, very much a continuation of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, right? Korea has always been good with drama stuff.
Oh, sure. It's a bit of a curse, actually.
But I'm trying to think if there was any sci-fi movies.
Okay, so you could argue that. I mean, even Train to Busan, you could argue is partly sci-fi.
Zombie movies considered?
Yeah,
sci-fi?
I mean, kind of in a way.
Okay.
I mean, it's not strictly. I mean, there are debates going on whether you can include that. But kind of a strictly sci-fi movie, I guess you have to look at Bong Joon-ho and Snowpiercer, and also The Host, which is also technically sci-fi.
Yeah, but this is for real science. It's AI.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like where it's going, but I feel like it's just so complicated. A Chinese single mother, I'm pretty sure it's Tang Wei, who's trying to hide her death from her daughter and her older mother. I guess she's gonna hide her death by becoming an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, basically, the kind of how do I say the architects of this technology, they're played by Choi Shik and Jung Yoo-mi, and they basically put together this kind of, I guess, artificial intelligence that allows people who have died or who have I guess, are incapacitated. So Susie's boyfriend in the movie, played by Park Bo-gum, he had an accident, so he's comatose. He's in a coma. So she's able to talk to him and meet with him through this video conference, this video kind of cool software. So he's out in space, like being George Clooney. It's a bit weird. But the thing is, the real character's in a coma, and then he wakes up, but he's not quite right. So she still interacts with him.
So I mean, it looks...
the Tang Wei character,
she's
an architect, but she's sick and she dies, and she doesn't want to tell her mother and daughter what's really happened.
Oh, is it like Love Actually, where there's like a number of different stories?
It's episodic, similar in a way.
Okay,
well, that's the thing. One of his earlier films, Family Ties, is like that, and that also stars Jung Yumi, who's in this movie.
Yeah. I remember that. All right. Well, there's so much money into this. What is this? 10 billion won budget that they use?
But a lot of it's like takes place in indoor locations. So, and I think that's what I found less interesting about it, is that because sci-fi sometimes the aesthetic can come across a bit bland.
Is it still like? Is Korea still struggling to keep up with like those kind of what is it?
It's not the special effects. Actually, special effects are pretty good, but it's just, I don't know, like I think with Korean films and content, if you look at films like Extreme Job, which is set in this like chicken restaurant, or even like shows like Moving, which actually also is technically sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it very much does it in a way that allows viewers to, they can see like local references. This is very melodramatic, and so in the sense it's quite Asian or quite Korean.
Sure.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's rooted anywhere.
Okay.
A lot of the films set in an airport. And so, yeah. I'll be very curious to hear what you think, SJ.
It seems intriguing once it comes out on VOD.
It is intriguing. It's not a bad film. I kind of I liked it, but I give it 3 stars out of 5.
Okay,
that's just a bit disappointing.
That's not bad.
With Kim Tae-hong, I think I would give most of his films either 4 or even bordering on 5.
All right, there you go. And what about the box office numbers? Is it doing all right?
Not really.
Yeah.
It opened with a tally that was under 100,000. It sold over 100,000 tickets yesterday, but yesterday was a bank holiday. It was Memorial Day.
Right.
And the reservations are not looking particularly strong. And the reaction to the film is getting quite low ratings among netizens. So I think it's going to struggle. But it will be available on a very famous streaming platform beginning with N.
Yeah. Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, are we allowed to say that? Okay.
Netflix, yeah.
So it'll be available on Netflix soon, I think.
Which means it
internationally.
Really
so our viewers overseas watch it. Sorry?
It used to be the joke, like if it's available on VOD very quickly, it didn't do well.
Well, that's Disney shot themselves in the foot with that.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because they put all their content on their streaming platform, so people didn't go out to watch the content in the cinema, like Turning Red Bombs, Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah. Buzz Lightyear, I didn't even watch that.
It's not very good.
Speaking of contents, there was a drama that everyone's been talking about, and my wife will not stop talking about this fella named Pyun Woo-seok.
I know, he's the biggest name in Korea right now.
He is. What is this? The drama called Lovely Runner. He comes out in this, and it's like a story of a relationship between an actor and a director or something like that. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, he's a star, and then something happens to him, and then and then there's the female lead in the show, played by Kim Hae-hyun, who's also absolutely fantastic, and she's a film director, and something happens to her. She's in a wheelchair, and anyway, they're able to go kind of back in time to the 2000s, and they basically have a relationship. They fall in love. Yeah,
they go back in time and they fall in love.
Yeah, essentially.
This is like there's a webtoon that I read all the time, and it's called like Second Life Producer or something like that, and this producer is getting a second chance in life, and he saves the life of his ex-girlfriend, who was like an actress and things like that. It's very similar. There's a lot of, the whole going back to time thing is like a big trend.
Well, that's kind of science fiction as well, right? So that, Korean content does have this really interesting relationship with, some of the tropes of sci-fi.
Like it's not officially sci-fi, but they do add the sci-fi elements.
It's not. This is definitely not. It's sci-fi.
Lovely Runner is based on a Netflix. What is it? Webtoon?
Yeah, it's based on a webtoon.
Oh, so that makes sense. Okay, I thought it
so much
like
of the content is available is based on webtoons these days. I mean, that's where all the content is being created. That's why all these big companies are kind of. They're basically financing webtoon writers to write, so they can then have the rights or have the IP to that to make films.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
shows.
there's a lot of really good webtoons out there, and there's a lot of webtoons where I'm hoping turns into like a drama, but they can't do all of it.
Yeah, and so often when I'm on the subway, SJ, I just see people on their phones scrolling down. The latest webtoon, latest. I can't get my words out. Webtoon.
We're going to turn to our key theme today. This is going to be a fun one. Korean War films, because June 25th, 1950 was when North invaded South Korea. That was the official start of the Korean War. And I know yesterday we had Memorial Day, where we pay tribute to all the fallen heroes. There's endless number of films that have depicted the Korean War.
Not so many recently, though.
Not so much recently.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm going to admit to this. I'm going to be man enough to admit to this. There was this one movie on the Korean War, and it was probably the first movie that made me cry, ever.
Taegukgi?
Yes.
There you go.
Man.
They're re-releasing this film. They've re-released it.
Really?
Not only have they re-released it because it's 20 years since it was released in 2004. It sold well over 10 million tickets. Stars Wonbin, of course, and Chan Dong-gon. And and the movie, it's been re-released in 4K. So if you want it in like super high HD, you should go and check it out at a theater.
I have to do it. I might start crying in 4K now. You remember we were talking about movies that depicted the May 18th democratization movement?
That's right, we did that.
And you were talking about how there are movies that were too commercialized. How do you rate Taegukgi, Brotherhood?
Well, it is very commercialized.
Right?
I mean, it's very melodramatic.
But it's good.
Well, I mean, because I was reading reports actually about D-Day. So this is the Normandy landings in Europe, and they're commemorating that at the moment in Europe. Yeah. And I saw Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg were there, and of course they're behind Saving Private Ryan, which influenced Taegukgi.
Did it really?
Yeah, of course it did. Yeah, I mean,
no, I can tell it's very similar. But...
Yeah, in terms of the way it depicts the brutality of war.
Yeah.
And so then I guess what's different about Taegukgi compared to something like Saving Private Ryan, although Saving Private Ryan does of course include the story of family, because they the story of that film is to try and bring Ryan home, right, the brother. But in Taegukgi it's a story of two brothers who basically end up on different sides.
Goosebumps.
Oh, I can see you were moved, SJ.
I get goosebumps already.
Yeah.
You know which part made me cry? Of all the scenes, there was one part that made me cry.
Okay.
And I was nice to my younger brother for like 5 minutes after I saw that scene. There was a scene where finally they discover the remains of the older brother.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That was the scene I was going to mention.
And then the shoe.
Yeah.
The shoe, right?
Yeah.
And he's holding on to the shoe and he's crying and he's going, you said you were going to come back. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps, guys. I might cry.
You should go and watch it in 4K. Because actually the... Kang Jae-gyu and the leading actor, sadly Wonbin wasn't there, but Chan Dong-gun, they were at a kind of press conference talking about the film and its re-release. So it was re-released yesterday because it was Memorial Day as well.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch this. You're gonna see me crying in 4K.
Yeah, let me know how you feel about the film 20 years later.
And then you have the late Eun-ju in that movie. Yeah. And then remember we were talking about how I remember because again
she was such an amazing actress.
She was so good, but a lot of the big movies that she was in, she always dies, and that was the weird thing, right? In this movie, she dies. Was Scarlet Letter?
Yes,
which I thought was a great movie.
Yeah, it's a very good film. Yeah,
very very good movie.
That's the scene in the trunk.
Yeah, it's crazy. the next Korea war film that you chose is probably one of my favorite. No, this is okay. It's my favorite and my dad's all-time favorite.
Okay,
movie.
this is the best Korean War film there is. Well, in the kind of contemporary era. Welcome to Domako.
This has everything. This has comedy.
It does.
This has drama. This has action. It has everything.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's got everything in there, like you said. It's directed by Park Kwang-hyun, co-written and produced by Jang Jin, who's a big filmmaker in Korea, big writer as well. It's based on the play that he wrote, and yeah, it's set in a secluded village. And they have no idea there's a Korean war going on.
Yeah,
and it's discovered by North and South Korean soldiers along with the U.S. pilots. So,
it's like 2 North Korean soldiers, 2 South Korean soldiers, and 1 American pilot. It's a scene. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I guess that's the thing about these films is that they're not really necessarily, well, they're not ideologically driven. It's more about seeing war and how it separates families, it separates countries.
They're all the same people. It's just the war divided them, and the war kind of made them enemies. And it reminds me of another really good movie, JSA.
Right? Oh, I show JSA to my students every year.
JSA is a great movie, and it's an older movie, but that's, again, another story about how,
It's not a Korean War film.
No, it's not.
But it does deal with inter-Korean relations, yes.
Right, and so it kind of depicts how if they're in the same place for an extended period of time together,
the bonding
right? Is going to happen, right? And then this is where what's her name? Tablo's wife. Yuhaejung is it? Yuhaejung, I think is her name. Yuhaejung. What was her name? Anyways, she's in this. Great acting in this.
Oh, you mean the actress from Old Boy, right?
Yeah. I don't know if any of our listeners have watched this. You have to watch this. I mean, this
and there's this great wild boar scene as well, and also a scene involving popcorn.
It's so cinematic. Oh, it's so wonderful, right? It's just like all in the air. It's just something. I must have watched this movie more than 5 times now.
Yeah, and then you have the climatic sequence, which is dramatic and
I'm not going to spoil.
Sad,
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but for our listeners out there, please watch it. You have one final pick. I don't know this, and so you have to explain to me what this final movie for a Korean War movie.
Yeah, this film is not so well known. Actually, there's a whole bunch of Korean War films which I don't think are particularly good, but yeah, this is good. It's called The Front Line, directed by Jang Hoon. Jang Hoon's famous for he's made a few films, but I guess his most famous film is Taxi Driver, which we've talked about. He also made a film called Secret Reunion, starring Song Kang-ho and Kang Dong-won. And so, yeah, The Front Line is a war film. It stars Shin Ha-gyun, Go-soo, Lee Jae-hoon, set during the 1953 ceasefire of the Korean War. But basically, fighting continues as the two sides try to capture strategic points to create a new border along the peninsula. And yeah, it's really well made. This film, in terms of like technically, it's really superb. And again, you have these very powerful scenes between North and South Korean soldiers. So yeah, it's not ideologically driven as perhaps maybe some earlier Korean War films were. But yeah, it's certain
2 million views.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge hit. It's one of those films that Welcome to Domako and Taegukgi were certainly huge gargantuan box office hits. This was less so, but still, it's a film that I've revisited, and I think it stands the test of time, and it's definitely worth watching.
If any of our gentlemen listeners want to cry this weekend,
this is not. I would say that The Front Line is definitely less melodramatic than Welcome to Domako or Taegukgi. And perhaps, that signified it in the lack of success of the film compared to...
Yeah, I have to say, I've never heard of this movie.
It's good. It's available on streaming platforms. You can watch it. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Kosu, Shin Ha-gyun and Kosu. And Shin Ha-gyun, by the way, comes out in Dongmakgo, right?
He does. He's a legend. He's also in JSA.
Oh, he's in JSA. That's right. He comes out in a lot of these movies as like soldiers and officers. For our listeners, one more movie if you want to cry. This is not a Korean War movie per se, But after I went through a period in college where for the first 2 times I cried. The first time was when I was watching the DVD to Taegukgi.
Yeah.
Right? Taegukgi
I'm trying to work out what this movie might be.
And then that was the first time. And then I was like, I have to watch the next movie, right? Because that's all I did in college. I watched a lot of movies.
My Sassy Girl.
No!
I rewatched that the other day and I cried.
You cried
I loved that movie.
You cried over My Sassy Girl?
I did.
Did you watch the second one?
I have seen the second one. Do you mean the Windstruck?
Yeah. That was the one with was Changhyuk.
Changhyuk,
That was a little bit weird. No, Shimido. Come on.
I find that. I think we've spoken about that movie.
We talked about this.
Yeah, I find it a bit problematic.
That movie. Those 2 movies, Taegukgi를 휘날리며 Taegukgi, The Brotherhood of the War, and Shimido are the 2 movies guys are allowed to cry to.
I could see you like sat in your lounge, just like.
I wasn't even in my lounge. I was in my room.
In university or wherever.
I'm not gonna let everyone see me cry, but there's a scene there.
There's nothing to be ashamed of, the older I get, the more I cry when it comes to movies.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
The older you get, you start you feeling that. I've been going to
especially as a father as well, or a parent. Right?
Weddings, man. Weddings do that for me. When the father walks through I didn't cry the last wedding you were there with.
I was there.
We were in a wedding together. I didn't cry in that wedding, by the way. Great movies here, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out if you haven't checked out those movies that we talked about. Jason, as always, thank you very much. We'll see you again next time.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
You can listen to Korea Now with me, SJ Lee, by downloading the Arirang Radio application or tune in online by visiting www.arirangradio.com. So make sure you tune in Mondays through Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Korea time.